Hello there and welcome to my tour of my completed sketchbook from 2022 to just a couple weeks ago, so 2 years of art in this one. In this book there's some of my art that's very special to me, and then there's other pieces of art that will probably never see the light of day after this video. So if you want to see all the good things and the bad things in between, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. So we're off to a mediocre start on the very first page. So I sketched these on the 1st of June 2022. The first one was a plein air sketch of a building in Launceston. It was okay, I quite like that one. And then I tried to do some figures. I can't remember what I was really going for these ones, if I was just practicing figure drawing or if I was practicing colours. I've put a couple of swatches down there, but yeah. I can't remember doing these. On the next page I didn't date these at all. It looks like it was just playing around with colours again. It looks like an attempt of a landscape. But opposite those ones is a sketch of a little, I think it would have been a Norwegian house. I was going through like a colourful house phase as you'll see further on into the book, so this was probably just a part of that time. I remember spending a lot of time doing the house, like the woodwork and the colours and everything. I was really happy with that, but then I couldn't work out what the surrounding areas should be like, so I tried to put it on an island with water, but the perspective is all out, so yeah, it was a little bit of a fail for that one, but the house is cute. Then we've got a collection of Australian birds. Not much to say about these ones, although I was excited about the bin chicken apparently. A couple more portrait pictures. The pencil one is meant to be Beatrix Potter, I think. I don't know why I didn't finish it. It was just a bit of doodling, I suppose. And the other two, I mean, the top right looks like David Tennant. I don't think it was ever meant to be David Tennant, but it is. Then you've got a pencil sketch of a man in a coat, moodily looking out onto the horizon. Oh, so artistic. Then we've got some houseplants and a doggy. I was staying at a friend's house at this time and they have a lot of plants and a Labrador, so I sketched those ones. The dog I did digitise and I turned it into a print and greeting cards. That dog has a whole nother life outside of this sketchbook, which is good. I didn't do anything with the houseplants, but they could make cute stickers, I suppose, if I ever get into proper sticker making. Then on the following page I've got another plein air painting of a building in Evandale that I sketched when I went on a little sketching trip with a friend, and the other two illustrations on the other side are from that day out as well. The bottom one's like a little church that was on the horizon, and then there's some sheep. I'm not good at drawing sheep at all, but that was an attempt was made. But I do really like the style of those two pictures. Like the proportions are all out, the perspective's out too, but I love the very loose ink work that I did, and the limited colours of the landscape. I think I'll have to do a few more landscape paintings that are a bit like that, because yeah, I liked how those turned out. A bit of watercolour practice on the other side, so there's a nice landscape. I put 2 ducks in the foreground, and the ducks are so huge compared to the rest of the landscape. If they weren't there, this would have probably made a really nice landscape painting, but because they're there, it looks so amateurish. But anyway, there's more amateurish things to come. And the bottom ones of the flowers and the leaves, they were a botanical study from Beatrix Potter's illustration, because I love the shading and the combination of ink and watercolour that she uses for those. They were just sort of master studies, little master studies, I suppose, and I learned a lot from them as well. Then we've got a few cats on the other side. The cats amongst the daisies, I think I was trying to make a print out of that, and it turned out okay, but you know, I don't really draw cats that much, so I really like the cat down below. I was playing a lot with light, and you'll see a lot throughout this sketchbook. It's me trying to learn how to harness light a bit better in my paintings, so that turned out really nicely. Then we've got a whole cat page dedicated to sort of characterising cats, I suppose. And there's a little bear up there too. More coloured houses that I was talking about before. I was wanting to put a lot more houses on this page and then digitise them and make it into a print and on cards and bookmarks and stuff, but I never got around to it because I did 4 houses and then I was like, that's scratched that itch now and I don't really need to draw any more houses, so I didn't. But I may come back to that one day if I feel so inclined. Then we've got another page full of doodles. There's sort of a Christmassy inspired one. It says Home for the Holidays, and it's just a really dark, limited colour sketch of a few houses. And then there's an attempt at a door, a chair, and a few more houses on the bottom. I like houses, what can I say? After that one, I've got a light study in black pencil. It was a picture I found, I think it was on Instagram, and it was a coloured version, so this was just me doing a black and white study of that one. I left space down below because I was going to do a coloured version, but I just never came back to it, and so I left that page blank. Then there's a plein air painting of a few airplanes from me in an airport. I think I did that... I don't know when I did that. I don't know why I didn't date it as well. I think it could have just been early last year, and this page must have been blank and I went back on it. I can't remember. Anyway, there's some planes. On the next page, there's an attempt at an English village scene that I spent so long drawing out, and then I started laying the paint down, but I didn't do it very evenly, and things were just too dark to start off with. I should have gone in with lighter washes at the start, but I didn't. So everything just sort of had no shadows, and I was just like, this is going nowhere, so I just stopped. But instead I stuck down a little illustration that I did of a teddy bear that I have on a keychain, and I love this illustration so much, and the teddy bear's so cute. If I ever get around to illustrating a children's book, this teddy bear would be one of the characters in it, and this is the sort of style that I'd have for that book. I already have a story, but it's just me needing to get around to doing it. So yeah, that's a very important illustration for me. Following page, just messing around with colours really, making an attempt at some things and just having it all fall apart. There's a little illustration of some trees and some ferny sort of trees. That was on a little painting trip with a friend as well. Then we've got in Tally House. This was from a photo that I took when I visited there early 2022, and I painted this one in September 2022. It could have done with more shadowing in hindsight, or something a bit more going on. It's very flat, but it's cute. It'll do. And then on the following page is the clock tower in Launceston. It was like at the end of the day, it was cold, it was miserable, and I roughly sketched it out with pencil and then just threw some watercolour down. And by that time I was tired, so I couldn't be bothered really putting much effort into it, so it's just very washy and moody. And at the time I was like, oh, this is crap, I'm just going to close the book and go home. But ever since then, I quite like it. I like the lack of colour, I like the lack of straight lines. There's something about it. So it's a reminder, I suppose, that I can be a bit more loose and things can turn out quite nice. And I like the juxtaposition, I suppose, between these two paintings. Like, one's very loose and fluid, the other one's very stiff and stilted, and I do prefer the clock tower over the house. Then we've got another bit of a flat image again. This was Richmond Bridge. This was done in plein air too. It was one again where I did it all perfectly in pen and then went in with watercolour and was sort of, I suppose, stilted and scared of ruining my pen illustration that I did, that the watercolours just, they don't really do much for it. So another learning point of trying not to be afraid of being a bit more loose, because when I'm stilted and stiff like this, then flat images are inevitable, if that makes any sense. Then I've got a couple of paintings on the other side that I did, and this was just experimenting from the Colour First Ink Later urban sketching book. I've talked about this in another video, and this was just me mucking around with the ideas. On the next page I've got a painting that I did on New Year's Day, just of a little house with some fireworks in the background. Simple and yeah, just doodling, I suppose. And on the following page I've got a plein air painting that I did. This one's from the Colour First Ink Later video that I did. So I'll link that and you can see the whole creation of this painting. And then there's a little sunrise painting. Can't remember doing it. It's not that great. On the other side I've got the conservatory in City Park. That was me doing plein air painting. And then there's more of me playing with light with a bunny rabbit as the topic this time. I remember that one took ages to do, but it was a fun one. And yeah, just fiddling with light, as one does. We've got a couple of illustrations. The yellow raincoat one, that was just me mucking about really. I don't think it was from a photograph or anything. And then I sketched my bedroom chair as well, which I really like that style too. I think that style paired with the teddy bear style, like just the minimal colours but a lot of pen sketching and shading. Yeah, it's nice. On the other page I've got a couple people dancing. This was from a photograph that I found on Pinterest. I spent a bit of time on this one, again playing with light, doing some shading, not trying to achieve anything spectacular, but just enjoying the process. And I remember putting this one together and I really enjoyed it, and I like looking at it now too. A couple more crappy paintings of a tree and some roofs. And then on the other side it's meant to be a fountain too. That was plein air. It can sometimes be very difficult getting the right perspective. When you're looking at a photograph, everything's in frame perfectly, but when you're just outside and you're looking at the subject, you can see everything else around it, so it's hard to focus on what you want to paint. This is a not so great page. We'll just turn that. Then I've got some paintings that I did in England last year when I visited. So the first one is of Hilltop Farm, of Beatrix's house, and these were all painted outside. So the Hilltop Farm one I didn't really like too much, so I just sort of pasted a receipt that I got from the Windermere ferry that crossed the lake. So I've tried to paint Hilltop Cottage so many times, but I can never get it right. Then I've got a couple of paintings I did. One was on my walk back from Hilltop Farm to Windermere. There was just a nice idyllic countryside scene. Then the following day I went on a little bus tour from Windermere to Grasmere and spent some time in Grasmere and then came back via Ambleside, and I did a painting of just some houses on the hill there from a graveyard. It was quite nice. It was relaxing. Then on my last day in Windermere, I went for a coffee and sketched outside. There was a nice old, it would have been 1600s building. So I just did an ink sketch of that one. And then the building down in the bottom right, that's just one of the houses that line the streets of Hyde Park. So did a little sketch of that one. On the following page, the window I did sketch when I was in Hampton Court, but the other two paintings I did when I returned back home. They're just of a few buildings from pictures that I took on my holiday. On the following page, we've got some just random sketches of houses and a yak, I think. Don't remember doing it, but there we are. And just some, rough ink paintings. We've also got a bunch of daffodils, which I painted from some that I picked last year, and there's also a brick wall with a hidden door. I painted that outside as well. So just random illustrations on that page, really. These next two pages, the one on the left was me just experimenting with doing a countryside scene but doing splotches of colour instead of painting everything. It didn't turn out right, so I just gave up halfway through. And then I've got an illustration of some basil, and it's been pasted over another country village scene, playing with light, but it didn't turn out well, so it wasn't worth keeping, so I just put the painting over top of it. These two paintings I quite like. First one is just a cottage in Edinburgh, from a picture that I found on Instagram. This one took quite a bit to do. There's a lot of layers in it, and I like how I tried to remain as light as possible and took my time with that one. And then the other one I was mucking around with, just using basically greens and yellows to have a foresty sort of lakey feel about it. A few sketches that I did from a walk around South Arm, so I was experimenting with trying to do the tonal values first with just black pencil, and then I did another sketch of it and put in some watercolours there too. I was actually going to turn this into a large full-size painting and frame it, but I just haven't got around to that stage yet, but at least the first two things are done. Then there's some pictures of my parents' gnome garden. Not much to say about that, but they're quite cute. On the 27th of January, I had a breakdown about colours and not being able to get enough depth from watercolour. So this was me trying to do that and trying to prove myself that I don't have to have light paintings all the time. And doing this sort of led me to starting to do gouache a bit more too, because that is giving me what I want. But yeah, this was this was a sort of a cure for my breakdown. It's a whole thing. It's too long to go into for this video, but yeah. This was a good painting in the end, but the progress towards it was frustrating in the least. Then I've got another little village scene. Some still lifes that I did on a recent art retreat a few weeks ago. They're both in gouache. The first one I sketched out before and then applied gouache. And then the second one I just went straight in with gouache. So I did all the illustrations with that. And I love the second one more. It's just more evidence that, Anna, you have to just go loose instead of setting something out in ink or pen. So yeah, I quite like that one. They're meant to be leaves surrounding the kettle too. The second one looks like it's on fire, but you know, can't win it all, I suppose. And then the painting across is also done in gouache. That was a window, looking out through a window to see an autumnal backyard with just lots of yellows and greens. I should have put a bit more orange in there, to be honest, but yeah, I liked that one too. And I pasted that over just a terrible, I can't even remember, it was an attempt at a village scene again. And then the other two were urban sketches. First one was a study of a landscape, just trying to get colours in. So I put down the paint first, let it dry, and then I put down ink, and I really liked that effect, and I've got to do more of that. And then the second one was an ink illustration. I started to apply watercolour, but then I remembered all my mistakes that I've done in the past, and so I just stopped and left it at ink. And I think that makes it a lot more impactful as well. So I really like this illustration, and if I could have all my illustrations in this style, I'd be a happy person. So that's my new resolution for my new sketchbook. I'd like to practice that style a lot more. And then towards the end, I've just sticky taped in some paintings that were sitting loose in this book. So first one is a house, playing around with those autumnal colours again. So just as I was finishing off doing the audio recording, my camera just switched off. And I do not know when it stopped recording my voice. All I know is that it would have stopped at some point. What I wanted to say though at the end was thank you very much for watching this sketchbook tour. It was a bit long, but hopefully you enjoyed it. The sketchbook that I was using was a Hahnemuhle one, A5 size. And I really do like this brand. The paper in it is very forgiving and it holds a lot of water. So I do recommend it. It's expensive, but it is quality. So that's nice. But I've been thinking I did want a bit of a more warmer coloured paper because this is a very, very, very cold white paper. So I've bought a new sketchbook now, which is a Moleskine A4 size, or it's quite, I don't know if it's exactly A4, but it's that sort of size. It's got a more warmer coloured paper to it. So that's going to be my new sketchbook. I'm very excited to fill that, and hopefully it won't take 2 years for me to fill it as well. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you again in another one. Bye for now.